Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at these annual buy-in prices, so the average price to purchase Bitcoin annually. We're also going to be looking at the minimum and maximum as well. So if you guys like the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Check out the Telegram channel here if you would like to join the community of over 3,200 people. And if you would like to join the premium list and get access to the exclusive content I provide to people on this list, then check out my website at intothecryptoverse.com. So by joining this, you get access to a weekly newsletter, risk analysis, logarithmic regression analysis, and a lot of other things. So check it out if you're interested. So let's go ahead and jump in. So what we're looking at here is the price of Bitcoin on a logarithmic scale. So again, each major tick is 10x. So 10x up, 10x up, 10x up. X-axis is time, and what we're plotting is the average purchase price of Bitcoin during each year. And you can see that we more or less just trend upwards with some contraction phases in there. If we plot, say, the standard deviation, this is one standard deviation, you can see the significance of that in terms of how large the standard deviations can be during expansion phases, but then you see when they retract, the standard deviations tend to get a little bit smaller. Especially, in 2020, I guess it makes sense that it's fairly small so far, but we've only been here for around 4 or 5 months in this year. But again, you can see during the expansion, you can see the standard deviation really goes up a lot higher than in other years. And remember, in the peaks for Bitcoin were 2011, 2013, and 2017, and you can see how much higher these error bars are essentially going. And then the bear markets were basically the years following it, so 2012, 2014, and 2015, and then also 2018, 2019. If we plot on here the minimum, so this is the minimum purchase price of Bitcoin each year. This is what we have so far. It tends to just trend upwards with some pullback phases in there, but more or less this shows that, historically speaking, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, you should buy it sooner rather than later. This is not financial advice, but in terms of looking at the macro scale, this is what it suggests. Now, many of you are wondering how this makes sense because you've been in the markets maybe since December of 2017, but you probably got it. You got in at like the worst time, essentially, because if you just look at the minimum price, it's more or less still just going up. Not quite monotonically, but pretty close to it. So looking, just at the minimum price is fairly interesting. And then looking at the maximum price, I think is even more interesting as well, because you can really get an appreciation for how high up the price of Bitcoin is moving. If we were to say take this and extend it out in time and then put on here the expansion phases and the contraction phases, you can see that the expansion phase, we have our first expansion phase followed by a contraction. Another expansion, this time the contraction, when measured just annually, was two years. So the first contraction was 1 year, the second contraction was 2 years. Believe it or not, we're in our third contraction phase, which so far has been 1 in 2018, 2 years in 2019, and then if things continue going like I think in 2020, which will be defined as an accumulation year, then this will just be yet another contraction, which I think makes a lot of sense in the idea of lengthening cycles, which if you're not familiar with, we talk a lot about on this channel. The fact that the next expansion phase will likely take us out to 2023, and you can see, say, these dots in here would correspond to a slow move up say this is like the maximum price of Bitcoin. So maybe in 2021, maybe it'll be around $20,000 or so near the end of it. By 2022, we're probably looking at around 40 to 50,000, and then sometime in 2023, we're going to be getting, in the $100,000 range, somewhere probably between $100,000 to $200,000. And if you extend this out to, say, another contraction phase, if we were to continue to follow the same pattern, then it would look to say, okay, well, if we're peaking in 2023, then our next contraction phase will take us to 2027, okay? And then the next expansion phase after that might take us out to 2031 or 2032 or so. So this is just more evidence to show essentially what I've been showing along, but you can get a better appreciation for just say the expansion phases and the contraction phases. And many of you got in during the expansion phase or maybe just at the very end of it, and you've been living through this contraction phase for years and years and years. Well, more than likely the expansion phase is coming in the next few years, and you're not going to want to miss it. So at least consider that before just writing cryptocurrency off because you bought in at Bitcoin at $20,000, and since then your ROI has just been negative. So consider the macro level moves of Bitcoin. Again, I want to remind you that this is just the weekly chart of Bitcoin. We're just looking at it just because I'm making a video. Watch out again for the 20-week moving average. Currently, it's sitting around close to $8,000. So if you see us come back down to this level, don't be alarmed quite yet. Remember, holding this level is important in terms of verifying and validating the beginning of a bull market. We need to hold this level. We will crash to it several different times throughout a theoretical bull run that may occur. So don't be alarmed if it happens. What would be alarming and what might call you to action would be if you see us closing weekly candles below the 20-week moving average, which, as we have said, is a decent time, if any, to consolidate your altcoin positions. Not financial advice, but just because historically speaking, altcoins, not all altcoins, but most altcoins tend to perform poorly when Bitcoin drops below this level. So I wouldn't say get upset if it happens. Treat it as an opportunity that you can say, I'm going to spend 2020 to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I can so that during the next expansion phase, which is more than likely coming in the next few years, I can reap the benefits of. So in one sense, you almost want the price to go lower in the short term because somewhere out here, we're probably going to start really seeing it move up. And at that point, people are going to be saying, all right, it's going to pull back, and then it doesn't, and it keeps going up. One day it's 10,000, the next day it's 14. People are saying it's going to pull back. Maybe it pulls back to 12. You have, your local neighborhood bear saying, haha, I told you so, and then it goes straight back to 14, then to 16, then to 20, maybe stays there for a while, comes back down. But more or less, people are going to get left behind because they're always, no matter how many times Bitcoin, retraces or goes up, they're always going to say, okay, well, it's coming back down. It's coming back down to 3,000. It's coming back down to 4,000. They'll say this for years and years and years. And at some point, Bitcoin will prove them wrong. And they're going to be stuck, essentially FOMOing back into the market, hoping they can catch up to the herd, in the hopes that their short-term speculative gamble might pay off compared to your long-term strategic investment. So take all this into consideration. Again, if you want to join the premium list and get access to exclusive content, I'm posting a newsletter today, as well as a video for premium subscribers only, and we go through a lot of different metrics, but the focus of today's is, historically speaking, if you're setting up a dollar cost average approach and purchasing Ethereum, what is the best day to do so? Last week we covered the same thing for Bitcoin, and we basically, every newsletter kind of has its own little tidbit of information that you can use to then put into your toolkit, and then maybe it'll help slowly mold how you build and think about cryptocurrency and how you manage your portfolio. So if you want to sign up for that, it's $49 a month. If you want access for say 6 or 12 months, you can go ahead and pay for that up front with cryptocurrency, and you get a discount for doing so. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content and learned something about these expansion and contraction phases of Bitcoin just by looking at, say, the annual average price of Bitcoin, the minimum and the maximum. I think it makes sense. It helps you appreciate the longer term macro level picture. So leave a comment down below to give me your thoughts on it. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.